Agile Data Engine, Tutorial, Create Entity and Attribute Mapping, Part 1. An entity mapping forms a dependency between a target entity and a source entity. Entity mappings can be created into loads, and they can contain attribute-level mappings. Agile Data Engine uses entity mappings to generate workflows, and attribute-level entity mappings to generate loads. Now we will learn how to create entity mapping and the basics of attribute mapping. We are now in the Loads tab, so let's go inside the load that was created earlier. Here you see, there's no entity mapping found. Let's go to check the data lineage. First, press this icon and select data lineage if it's not yet selected. And here, you see the target entity and the created load. But the load is not connected to the source entity. That's because the entity mapping is still missing. So, now we'll learn how to do entity and attribute mapping. First, you need to close this data lineage. Next, select Create Entity Mapping. Then search for the desired source entity by typing its name or part of it. And then press Search or Enter key. And press Select Entity. Here, you see two entities, the source entity and the target entity. There are no attributes yet in the target entity. Now switch to the left column, where you see the source entity's attributes. If you wanted to map only one attribute, you could select it and map it here. But that's not what I want to do now. So I'll unselect the attribute. If you're going to map all attributes, just press Select All and map selected by name. But I'll clear the selection once more to show you how to select several attributes and map them. In this case, it will be all the attributes since there are only two of them, but of course, there could be more. So, just select all the attributes you want to map and then press Map Selected by Name. Now, these two attributes are created to the target entity, and they are also mapped from the source entity. Next, you can go to the Attributes tab and check if you can see those attributes also there. And if you go to the data lineage view, you see that the source entity is now connected to the load to the target entity. So, now you have learned how to map an entity and its attributes from the source entity to the target entity. You will learn more about mapping in another video, Create Entity and Attribute Mapping Part 2.